Aloha. All right, so we just went live on our first live Google Hangout, me and Jenna from Live Pure Jenna on Instagram. I'm Laura Dawn. My account is at Happy and Raw. If you guys aren't following, definitely check it out. We're going to talk about maintaining balance over this holiday season so we can all have a very healthy holiday season this year. So we'll just give everyone a couple minutes to come on in. All right. How you doing, Jenna?
I am doing awesome. I'm really excited to be talking about this topic, and it's something that I think is really important for people to be able to stay in their divinity through high stressful situations sometimes for people. I mean, sometimes the holidays can put on a lot of pressure on people, and it doesn't have to be that way. You can be completely secure and in your peace and harmony through the holidays and just bring out this light within you. And I just think it's a great topic to cover, and I'm super excited to get through it.
Awesome. Me too. Yeah, I've definitely been in a lot of awkward social situations over the years. And, you know, especially being on an alternative diet, it can be hard to sometimes relate to other people. But we got lots of tips and strategies for today for this live hangout. And yeah, we're excited to share with you guys what that looks like. I guess we'll just give it one more minute, unless we want to just go ahead and start. What do you think, Jenna?
We can go ahead and start. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So do you want to talk a little bit about how we met?
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay, so I just love how Laura and I met. I had a friend that I went to college with, and he sent me a message on Facebook. And so if you guys don't know, my name is Jenna Davila, and I run livepureblog.com, and my Instagram name is livepurejenna. And I've been into raw foods for about 3 years now. And my friend Drew, he sees all my posts, and he messages me probably over a year ago. Yeah, over a year ago. And he was like, I'm starting to work for this girl named Laura Dawn, and I think you guys would just like work really well together. And I never heard of Laura before, and I looked at her stuff. I was like, wow, like, it seems really awesome, totally what I'm into. And it just so happens that we get linked up through my friend from college that I haven't talked to in like probably like 5 years or so. So random. And he was living in Philly, and Laura was out in Hawaii. So it's just like so amazing. The synchronicity of it is just awesome. So yeah, so we started linking up, and we got on a Skype chat together and just vibed really well. And yeah, the rest is history.
Right. And then we decided to launch our March retreat, which is coming up just around the corner. It's going to be here before we know it, which we've just been filling up. We have only 2 spots left, which is awesome. And I hopped on a plane and flew to Philly to meet Jenna for the first time. It was so fun. She picked me up at the airport before we went to the Woodstock Fruit Festival, which was such an amazing blast. If you guys can come and join us for that, it's incredible. Yeah. For people that haven't been to Woodstock yet, it's like one of the best experiences, a week long of just like amazingness. I'm actually speaking this year. And if you do want to come, check out the woodstockfruitfestival.com. And if you use the coupon code Happy and Raw, you can come for $200 off. So that will be awesome to have you guys with us. All right. Maybe I could talk a little bit about myself, and then we can pass it back to you, Jenna.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Okay. So it's funny to be like sitting in my my bedroom / office. I live in Hawaii, and my husband and I bought 10 acres of raw land 2 years ago. And so we've been building everything from scratch. And it's been such an incredible journey and incredibly challenging at the same time. But we literally moved onto our land in a van, in a VW van, and we didn't have any water or any power. And so we've just been winging it you know, every step of the way. And so I'm just upstairs. We live in this loft over our communal space. We haven't built our own house yet, but this is just a little inside glimpse of what it looks like where we live. And yeah, I've been on the raw food path for about 10 years now. It's been a pretty incredible journey. I won't get into the whole story because it's a little long, but you know, really just asked the universe for guidance in my life. And I went from living in Montreal, working in the finance industry, and I decided to leave. And I basically packed my bag, a little backpack, and I left, and I never went back. And I was, you know, kind of running away from myself and running towards myself at the same time. And through that journey, I found raw food quite accidentally. It was literally sort of stumbled into it. I was living on my ex-partner's land on 150 acres where his family taught me how to garden for the first time in my life. And after struggling with food for so long, finding raw food in that way was really amazing. And it's like this concept around raw food where it was just like so interesting to me that it was like, it's just real food. It's just the food that, you know, we were meant to be eating. And I didn't even know there was such thing as a raw food diet. I just started eating real food and people were like, wow, you're like transforming. And through that process, it was like such a part of my awakening in my life to like actually wake up to who I am because of this connection I was having with my food source and eating such clean foods and really letting go of a lot of excess. Was really quite the transformative experience in my life. And it wasn't until someone else that actually noticed these changes and these transformations were asking me like, whoa, what's going on with you? You know, what are you doing? And when I told them how I was eating, just that I was eating all these amazing foods out of the garden, they were like, wow, you're on a raw food diet. And I was like, what? I can't even believe that there's like such a thing, you know? And then it was just really from there. And really took a transition about 4 years ago into the high fruit lifestyle after, you know, having a bit of a divergent path with like gourmet, high fat raw, after I started learning more about like mainstream raw food, you know, and it was really interesting because I just started going more in the path of like gourmet style and high fat. And then when I moved to Hawaii, I really just fell in love with fruit and found a lot of Doug Graham's stuff and just really connected with this amazing growing fruit community. And the rest is history. Here I am in Hawaii, living the high fruit lifestyle and connecting with other amazing people like Jenna and so many people in this community that are doing incredibly amazing things. So I feel super blessed to know you guys and to be a part of this community and to be living here. And that's a little bit about where I'm at.
Thanks for sharing, Laura. I love how you touched on, let me check. There we go. I love how you touched on the transformation of when you started eating raw foods and realized that these are the foods meant for us to be eating, because that's where my transformation started as well. I found raw foods on the internet and just randomly came across Mimi Kirk, and she's like 75, I think, and she just looks so amazing at her age. And I was just like, whoa, like what is she doing? And she was on a vegan diet, raw vegan diet, and so I started looking up, and then I found Christina, Fully Raw Christina, and watched some of her videos. And my background is health and exercise sciences. And so I've always been an athlete and into health. And there was like a time where I wasn't eating healthy and my relationships weren't healthy. And so before that, I was really into eating organic foods, non-GMO, and just like really passionate about that, probably 2 to 3 years prior to raw foods. And then when I found it, everything just started clicking and made total sense. And it really, when I first started, it was totally for health reasons. And I guess like 3 months after, the connection of the ethical reasons and really making that connection, I kind of like just like woke up one day and just felt so connected to everything in my entire environment. I mean, when I first started, decided to be raw vegan, I was sat down with my husband and we made like turkey tacos, and I looked at it and I was like, I don't want to eat this anymore. And it was like, he's like, why? It's like, oh, there's like, this is like a turkey, and they have like turkey families, and just, but it wasn't like, it really wasn't like, for me, like really for the animals at first. It was health, and I had glimpses of like the animal welfare. And then 3 months later, I just felt like this like unified connectiveness with everything, and with God and source, and just like everything just kind of like blew my mind completely open. And it was such a transformational experience to be on this lifestyle. And then I found Graham as well, because when I first started, I was eating a lot of like the heavy gourmet raw food fats, and I wasn't really feeling my best. And then when I went to the fruit and started eating the 80-10-10 diet, I just really started thriving on this lifestyle and had such an amazing experience with it. And like I said, like the spiritual aspect of it just really blew my world wide open. So there's usually there's no really going back from that once you get that glimpse of the connectiveness of everything, and just being compassionate and kindness, and like healing yourself through this, and just like caring about yourself so much, and about like your feelings and your emotions, and knowing that you want the best and you want the happiness to just really pour through everything that you touch, and just bringing this love to everything that you touch. And it's just been an awesome experience. I'm just so grateful to have found this lifestyle. And I'm 30 years old, and you know, when I first started, I was like, oh, I wish I found this sooner, but I'm so grateful to have found it at this age, and just to really help teach others that they can transform their lives and to heal themselves through raw foods, really, because that's really where it happened for me. And I'm such a firm believer that this was the missing link that I needed to really propel myself forward.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah, it's so interesting how so many people have such interesting stories about how they found this lifestyle, and so many stories of just people who have gone through, you know, really hard times and then found this and this lifestyle, this way of eating, and I've really come to a place where they're able to like wake up in their lives. And that's a big topic that I really like to touch on, and that we're definitely going to be talking about at our retreat in March. Especially, you know, we're going to be focusing a lot on self-empowerment in that retreat. And so today's topic is it's not directly about self-empowerment, but in a lot of ways it actually is, you know, because, you know, we're talking about staying healthy this holiday season, and specifically we're going to be talking about how to navigate situations like social situations where, you know, if you're on living this lifestyle, sometimes it can be tricky to manage the way that we, you know, navigate our social interactions, especially when we feel like other people might be judging us for the way that we're rocking out. So I definitely have had, I feel like, my fair share of experiences on this lifestyle, on this path. Even before I was on this lifestyle, it's like even just like years ago, I remember I stopped eating bread before the Atkins like phase really hit. And I just started getting comments and questions at such a young age from people being like, why are you eating that? Like, why don't you eat pasta? Like, you're crazy, you know? And it was just like really interesting to feel awkward in a lot of situations. And I feel like it's really taught me a lot about who I am, and actually not shying away from being real with people and like, hey, this is actually who I am and this is what's up. And I've learned a lot about myself in the process. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And for, you know, anyone who's watching, any questions that you have, would definitely love to answer any and all questions that come through in today's hangout. But yeah, just like really want to keep it informal too, and wanted to sort of gauge what everyone else was feeling in terms of, you know, what they wanted to talk about. But really, I feel like some of the foundations that I want to cover in terms of you know, this whole concept of maintaining balance and creating balance, so we can really stay in this place of heart-centered living in this lifestyle. I think it's such a pertinent topic because so many people are struggling to find that balance, especially for people who are new to this lifestyle. You know, even if you're like new to this lifestyle for 6 months, the holiday season can definitely throw some curveballs in our direction, you know, and just in terms of like trying to figure it out. So I just wanted to cover a couple of like foundations, and then I was thinking, you know, Jenna and I will give some tips, and Jenna definitely step in and share as I'm talking about some of these foundations that I've even actually really kind of already touched on. You know, one of them being that through this process, I've really learned more about who I am as a person, and feeling self-confident enough to be able to answer people in the way that isn't really awkward or uncomfortable, you know, and whether we let people make us feel awkward, it's really our choice. You know, other people don't make us feel awkward. It's really our choosing and our perception of the situation. So I think part of it is this aspect of self-empowerment, because we don't have to give our power to other people. You know, when we're really rooted in who we are and what we know to be true for us in this moment, there's really nothing that we have to worry about. Actually, I used to get so many questions and comments around my eating when even at, you know, at a young age, that it actually created some social anxiety for me around eating in social situations. It's been a while since I've been over that, but I know what it feels like to feel that level of like, oh my God, like I don't fit in, you know? And we all want to fit in. We all want to connect. We all want to feel like we're connecting with other people. And I think that's a big thing that we'd like to touch on today, because we don't have to use food as our main point of connection. It doesn't have to be that way. You know, I had a very distinct experience going to one social event where, like in the past, struggling with food, because I have a history of food addiction and disordered relationship to food. I used to really struggle with like, oh my God, I'm going to be going to this place. Like I'm trying to eat healthy. Like, do I eat this? Do I not eat that? If I eat that, what are people going to say? Like it could create anxiety for a lot of people. And I felt like I actually couldn't connect with people in those situations. Like it was really, it became like this thing that stood in between me and the real connections and relationships that I wanted to foster and have with other people. So I feel like food, even though I hear it a lot from people that like, oh, but this lifestyle is challenging because I feel like I can't connect with people and everyone's going out to eat, and it doesn't have to be socially isolating. You can connect with people in other ways, or you can feel okay in yourself just to sit down at the dinner table and not eat if everyone else is eating, or bring your own food. And we'll get into those tactics specifically, but really wanted to touch on some of these foundations about recognizing that this path is like, it is a fully spiritual path. It's a spiritual journey. It allows us to get to know who we are more, which is really, you know, the essence of all of this whole journey that we're on. So, you know, I'm sure, Jenna, you can relate that that so many people, it's like food is such a touchy subject for so many people, you know, it's like right up there with like, you know, bringing up religion at the dinner table. And I don't know if you've ever seen any situations like that, that people just can get really defensive about their food related belief systems, but just like recognizing it for what it is, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Absolutely. What I wanted to touch base upon really quickly is that before even going into a situation is to really be clear about why you're on this lifestyle to begin with, because as you understand why you're on this lifestyle, you're able to really be secure and empower yourself in that way when you are, when challenges do arise. So I think it's really important to not only know why you're doing this, but to educate yourself and to really look at the health benefits. Like, why am I eating these foods? And just looking at it from a health standpoint, or looking at it from an ethical reason, and what's going on in the environment. There's so many reasons why this lifestyle is so amazing, and to really, bridge everything together and to really hold yourself firm in that. So when people do ask you questions, like, you don't get flustered, because you will already have that education, that knowledge of why you're doing this, and the reasons for that. So I think it's really helpful. And I also think it's really important that when you're in a social situation, when I first started this lifestyle, I was just like, everybody should do this, and people don't want that at all. They get really, really defensive, and they might feel like you're judging them for their lifestyle choices. And we have to remember that this is your own personal journey, and everybody else has their journey. And you need to let people and accept people for what their journey is. But, just to relax, and just, if people have questions, then answer them as honestly and as compassionately as possible. But don't be like, you shouldn't be eating that, or you should be eating that. And don't be like getting in people's faces, and just be really considerate about other people's life choices, even if you don't agree with their life choices, because you don't want someone else attacking you. So I think that's really, really important, especially if this is like your first holiday with people, and you're going to be around a lot of foods that don't vibe with you and that you don't agree with. But it's important to look at your family and the people that you're with from a spiritual stance. It's a stance of like who they are on the inside, and to not judge anyone because of what they're eating. And that's so important, to just really connect with people from the heart. And I think that the education part going into it will be really helpful for people as to why they are in this lifestyle. Because if you don't know why you're in this lifestyle, when people ask you questions, you're going to be like feeling like you have no idea, and it can be frustrating for some people. But yeah, I just wanted to say that.
I think, no, I totally agree, especially on the part of just like having compassion for other people, especially like, people who are on an unhealthy dietary lifestyle. It's like, hey, chances are we were in that exact same place too. Like, I don't know many people who are in this lifestyle now who actually weren't coming from a very unhealthy lifestyle. So, we just have to, like, we're all at where we're at on our spiritual journeys, and we can't really judge other people for where they're at. I think that's just so, so crucial and so important. And in that same token, just the way other people, if you ever feel like other people are judging you about the way that you're eating or choosing not to eat, along with other people, just to like really remember to like not take it personally, because even if they're judging you, they're just making judgments from their own perspective. It's not anything that we should be taking personally. And that's part of the reason that this lifestyle is so empowering, is because it really teaches us so much about ourselves. We're learning how to actually just like navigate so much of what we're doing on a day-to-day basis in a way that's, loving. And I can definitely resonate with you, Jenna, when you're like, at first, you wanted to tell the world, like shout it from the rooftops, like, I want to tell you about this new way of eating. It's amazing. Look how much energy I have, and it's actually kind of hilarious to think back on that now. But really, I'm like at that point where I actually ask people, like, specifically, like, are you asking my opinion? I'll share my opinion with you, but are you actually asking my opinion right now? Okay, you are. Okay, let me tell you about it. Because I think that it's totally inappropriate to be trying to, convert people to anything, really, and I think the key is just being open-hearted and just having this like calm-rooted centeredness to ourselves, so that we can show up in our lives every day from that place, and people will resonate with that more than anything. You know, you won't rub people the wrong way. It was like people like feel your groundedness and be like, dude, like they'll start asking you questions for sure about like what you're doing in your life. And so there is that food component, but there's also this like strong spiritual component of, you know, self-growth and self-development, of just really focusing on living a life in balance and in love and from our heart center, and creating a vibrational frequency that is harmonious with ourselves and with those around us and our food source. And that's really the difference that people will be able to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Because the longer you are on this lifestyle, I mean, everyone can tell like how much more grounded you are, and just like completely in this oneness with your divinity and your higher self, because you just want everything in this universe to resonate with love, the frequency of love, and being able to share that with other people. And just one of the things is that when you see someone, just giving them like this long, beautiful hug and just sharing your love and your light with people, you don't have to say anything about the food, because people are just feeling your energy. We're energetic beings, and people can see the change in you. And it's so important to just stay you know, just completely with that stillness and oneness with who you are during these situations, because there are some people. I'll give you an example. My aunt, she's so funny. Oh my God, she's so funny. But she'll be like, she'll have like, she makes like crazy desserts, and she like, oh my gosh, she'll have like 10 desserts, just like over the top with desserts. And she'll be like, do you want a cupcake? They're raw vegan. Like, she'll like make a joke of it, but you have to just appreciate it and just like laugh along and just like be playful, and don't take things seriously or personally. And just like people will just understand. The more you accept other people, the easier it is for other people to accept you. It's just a reflection of what you're putting out, whatever energy you're putting out. If you're going to be if someone asks you a question and you're going to be defensive about it, I mean, that's the energy that you're putting out in being defensive. But if someone asks you a question about what you're eating, and just really coming from your heart and telling them why on such a genuine, sincere level, people understand, and people just start thinking about it. It's such an amazing experience. We were one day, Jason had like all of his family over, and someone asked me a question, and it was just me and her. And then after like 15 minutes, I have like 5 people sitting like this, just like looking at me, like staring at me, like listening to what I had to say. And you will cultivate the people that want the help, that want to eat better, and, you know, just keep shining your light and just keep doing what you're doing. And yeah, so I would say that too.
Okay, wait, so was your aunt really making you raw vegan cupcakes, or she was just joking? They weren't raw vegan, right? I was like, man, that's so awesome.
No, she's hilarious. She'll always say that. She'll be like, you're organic and raw vegan.
You're like butter and like, yeah.
I love it. Great.
Well, you know, and the other thing is that like sometimes I feel like it's just important to like not be too hard on ourselves too. One of the things that I like to work with my clients around is just also not having this all or nothing mentality. You know, I was 100% raw, you know, for years. And now I do eat some cooked foods, and I feel good in that way. And I think it's like finding that balance that works for you, because sometimes I think putting ourselves in the dietary box makes it more challenging. If we see something and our body is like, oh, I actually really want that, and you know, have told yourself that this is the dietary framework that I'm working with. So I think my point is just really to find a balance that works for you. And if you're in a social situation where there is something that, you know, that you want to actually eat and enjoy, be present with it at least, and really ask yourself if that is really in alignment with your highest being. You know, is that really a choice that's in your highest, or is it just sort of like a passing indulgence that's happening? But sometimes, you know, the reality is that it can be tricky to maintain an alternative dietary lifestyle during the holidays. And so if you are in a place where you are, you know, partaking in what other people are eating, like being hard on yourself around it and like being critical and judgmental and really hard on yourself is actually not going to help at all. You know, having self-compassion, I think, is really the best thing that you can do in situations like that, so that you're not like, you know, bringing yourself down actually in an even lower vibrational frequency with, you know, guilt and blame and shame. So I think it's also really important to like speak to that, because we're not perfect all the time, you know, and I think Jenna has a really good point about educating yourself about why it is that you're on this path, you know, and actually having some concrete, solid education around it, I think will really help. And also keeping in mind what you really want, you know? So when you're in these situations, and a lot of times it's around, you know, not fitting in, I like to ask myself like, okay, so I know that the majority of the population is really overweight and diseased, and like that is not news. We actually know that 2/3 of the population is overweight or obese. I don't want to fit into that. I actually rather carve my own path and like really be my own person and shed the light that I want to shed and not have to try to feel like I'm fitting in. So I think along with educating, you know, educating yourself, I think is really one of the primary places to start. And also just really stepping back when you're in those situations and you're feeling awkward, or other people are like, you know, eating all this stuff that like probably in reality you're being triggered to eat, you know, because a lot of people do struggle with food addiction, or you know, if you've been eating hamburgers for the last 27 years of your life and for 6 months you've been raw, it could potentially be a challenge for you to not actually eat what everyone else is eating. So educating yourself and also really looking at the situation and thinking like, I don't want to actually fit into this. I want to be my own person, and I want to be rooted in who I am as a being, and just like really looking around and thinking like, do I want to be fitting into this, or do I want to just like be solid in who I am, you know? So I think those are some really solid tactics that we can be offering people in those situations. I always like to think of that, like, do I really want to fit in? Is fitting in the situation worth it? Or is it better for me to just like have people try to like fit into like what I'm doing, you know? So yeah, and I think that just comes with being solid in who you are. And sorry for the background noise. I don't know if you can hear a lot of the background noise, but I have 2 handsome men working right outside my window building my bathhouse. So I'm not going to complain about the noise. I'm just going to allow that to continue.
So one of the things that I wanted to talk about is before you even go into a social event, to just prepare yourself mentally for it, and just really come together in your center and just know and do affirmations for yourself of why you're on this lifestyle and who you are, and just be ready, be excited to go talk to people and to really be exactly who you are, because it's infectious for people. People see that you're loving your life and you're sharing this great energy with them. I mean, people are going to be asking you questions about your lifestyle, and that's an amazing thing for people to be asking you questions. Don't dread having people ask you questions, because this lifestyle is one that really helps everyone. It helps the planet, it helps the animals, it helps you, it helps every other person on every level. So being really mentally prepared for that. And I never rely on anyone else to have food for me, ever. That was one of the things that when I first started this lifestyle, I was like, oh, well, you know, like maybe they'll have something for me, or it just never worked out. And it always was like, oh man, I was always like starving. So wherever I go, I bring food with me. And actually, I went to a Friendsgiving on Sunday. And before I got there, I made like a 1.5 liter smoothie that I had. For my drink, I brought a liter of green juice there, and I made my own zucchini noodles with soft sauce, and I brought that there. And I just had like such an amazing time talking to people, and like you're drinking a green juice and people ask what's in it, and it gets them like inspired to live healthier. And to just bring your own food. Don't rely on anyone else, because it will never work out the way that you really want it to. And especially it's important to just accept other people for what they're eating too. It was really, really helpful. And I think it's important for you to really be who you are, and just let people see that, and no judgments at all.
Totally. Yeah. And I think going with this, with some of the concrete tips, like I really like that tip. I mean, of course, it's so awesome sometimes I like to get really kind of fancy. And if I know other people are going to be drinking wine, I'll like make fresh pressed grape juice and have that. Or I make, raw fermented kombucha. I also make that, and like I'll put it and bottle it in a wine bottle and pop it while I'm there, and people get to experience that and see that and taste all of our good homemade creations. So it's, there are definitely ways, especially if you're going somewhere where you've been invited to a dinner, call your host, see what's up. Like, can you bring food? Is it a potluck? If it's a potluck, great. Then you could just like bring all your own food. But if it's like more of a situation where it's like a sit down dinner, then just communicate your needs. There's nothing wrong with communicating to people about what your needs are. You're important too. And that's really important to remember. And then when you're at social situations, just focusing on common ground and, making sure you have what you need and that you're covering yourself, like Jenna said. And then, don't worry about the differences between you and other people. Just actually focus on all the common ground that you share, and that was getting back to what we were talking about at the beginning, like just actually being in connection with people. So, and then I think to follow up with that other tip is like to not really show up hungry too. If you're going somewhere, I've been in some really bad situations where I was like, leaving the beach and someone invited us over for a potluck and I didn't have any food and I just showed up hungry, and that can be really tricky, especially if if there's not going to be a lot of food choices available for you there. So that's another really good tip. And then Jenna, did you have anything else that you wanted to ask, that you wanted to add in terms of like concrete tips? Because I also was thinking we could talk a little bit about like how to respond to some of the questions of people.
Okay, yeah. One thing I wanted to mention, I brought this like 2 liters of fresh pressed apple juice, and I put like some cinnamon in it, like cinnamon sticks, and I brought that over for the Christmas, and everyone's drinking and doing stuff, and they like, oh my gosh, this is so good. They ended up like putting like a little bit of like their alcohol into their own little mixed drink. So like you are involved, and even though it's not something that you do and participate on your own, I mean, there are still ways for you to feel like a part of the group if that's what you want. And especially like making like food for other people and just like making like a lot of what you eat, it's so important. And to be able to share your food with other people, and that's part of your love. Like we make food, but it's from love, and being able to share that with other people and for them to try it and to actually really like and be like, hey, well, this is actually really good, and inspire them to make it at home. It's just so important just to really be open, just to be open.
I definitely agree. So what are some of your top tips? Do we want to talk about when people are like asking us questions in situations? Sometimes it can be a little awkward, and you already kind of touched on it a little bit, Jenna, about just like not getting defensive. I think is one of the first places that we could really start. Not getting defensive, staying grounded in who we are, and just not really worrying about other people judging us and what other people are thinking. Sometimes I like to just like outright change the subject. If I'm not in a place where I'm like in the mood to talk about it, I'll just change the subject, talk about something else and make it a little obvious. Like, oh yeah, it's like such a nice day outside today, and it really just depends on how I'm feeling, and I just tune in with how I'm feeling. But sometimes I don't, because I do this as a profession, I don't always want to be talking about it, and sometimes I just don't, and I'll just, not, because I don't want to in that moment. So I think it's just about, finding a solution that feels good for you in that moment. Any other suggestions that you have, Jenna?
See, for me, I like answering the questions for people just because I'm so passionate about helping like the people in my family, and if people are like sincerely like want to know the answer to, like you'd be able to tell if someone's like just trying to instigate something out of you, or if they're being sincere in their questions. But I don't know. That's why I said that education is really important, so that when people do ask you questions, that you know the answer to it, and they're not, or you can just say, just how you feel on the diet and why you're doing this. But I don't know. I just really like when people ask questions. And before I did,
but for other people, though, mostly just like for like giving it for people who aren't in this field of profession, so like, sometimes like I'll tell people like, hey, if you feel really uncomfortable, tell them that like your doctor told you that, you shouldn't eat that. And then just like giving people strategies to like, I do like answering questions too sometimes. And sometimes when before I was in this profession, I just actually felt awkward and uncomfortable and like, nah, stop asking me about how I'm eating, So I feel like just like of course, if you have the education and the knowledge and you want to share openly, then for all the people out there that are listening to this, like for sure, go for it. And if it's something that challenges you a little bit more, then, answering in whatever way feels good for you, like whether it's like, your doctor told you that this is the way that you should be eating, or you want to change the subject, or you want to cite, a well-known publication or a documentary or a movie that like are such amazing resources for people out these days. Like, hey, why don't you go watch Food Matters? Get back to me.
Yeah, Cowspiracy.
Right. I haven't seen that one yet, actually.
My God. It's really, really good because, I asked my dad, we were together, I'm like, let's watch, we were in Maine, I'm like, let's watch Cowspiracy together. He's like, I don't want to watch like animals being slaughtered and all that stuff. I'm like, it's not about that at all. I mean, it's really a great movie that is showing how like factory farming are destroying the planet on so many different levels, like through the rainforest and our waters and just like droughts and everything, and just like totally all comes back to factory farms and what we're doing to the animals. So it's an awesome movie. Totally recommend it. Gives you so many facts, and it's really, really great. That's why I said, like, just educate yourself. Just even by watching one movie before you go into like an event like this, so helpful. Right. So helpful.
Right. It's actually, I just saw it pop up on my Netflix, so I'm gonna watch that this week.
Oh, I'm excited for you. You're gonna love it. Yeah. Jason,
I went through a phase where I like watched so many documentaries that actually just like, need to take a break from it for a minute. Like not just the food documentaries, but some of the other documentaries too, where I was like, whoa, this is a lot of information. Yeah. And Woodstock Fruit Festival is amazing for that too, because there's just like so many amazing people there that are just wealth of knowledge. So definitely, join in on that for sure.
Yeah, Woodstock this year was so amazing. It was such high vibes in everyone. It was like a consciousness group, and it was like no other year that it's been, and it's just gonna keep getting better and better. I'm so excited that it's still going. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, cool. So we're about 1:45 to the hour. I feel like I've shared pretty much everything I wanted to share. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
Well, I do have a note about durian that I wanted to talk about.
Oh, nice.
Last Christmas, I brought a durian to Christmas, and it was so much fun to have everyone try an exotic fruit that no one's ever heard about. So everyone's like really interested, and it gets people involved in trying something new. And I think like we got really lucky. We had a really good durian. Awesome. Probably about 80% of the people who tried it loved it. And Jason's uncle, he really, really liked it. He kept going in for more. It was great. But I think just like bringing food that speaks to your heart and being able to share it with other people is such an awesome thing to do. And, you know, people are sharing non-vegan foods and that's their love, but you should be able to feel that you can share your passion as well. So I think it's really important to just, to not be afraid to bring your food, because everyone's gonna, you know, try it and appreciate it and love it just like anything else. And my grandparents, they're really funny. Every time I go to their house, they're like, "You need to eat meat," and they're like 80 years old. So like, you know, there's like no talking to them at this point, and just like, okay, grandma, and just saying, okay, grandma, and just like not even like going into it, and just let people, sometimes people just want to hear themselves talk. So just like if you hear someone that's like just like saying things, just like, okay. And like don't give them like any of your energy to like make you get upset or anything, and just be like, okay, and just like accept it and just like move along with it. You know, and just like focus on something else, like you said, like change a topic, or you know.
But I made it for you. Why don't you want to eat my food? I made it for you specifically. You don't love me? Right. Especially bringing durian too. Like I'm impressed that you brought a durian, because like that's one way to draw a lot of smelly attention.
It was a hit. You know, I've noticed that the frozen ones don't put off quite a smell. Like if it's like freshly unfrozen. But if it's been sitting out for, you know, a day or two, it kind of gets much stinkier. But yeah, everyone loved it. I mean, you go to like an Asian market and get like jackfruit, bring something different, and have people try different fruits. It's such a great idea.
Yeah, awesome. That is a good idea. Well, the last thing I wanted to share too was about our retreat. We're going to do, we have 2 spots left. So I created a coupon code, holiday. That's the code to get $75 off for the last 2 spots. So if you feel called to step into those 2 last spots, or one of the last 2 spots, then definitely on the website, go to Happy and Raw, and you'll see a link at the top that says retreats, and you'll see the retreat. And then in the coupon code section, you just put in holiday and you'll get $75 off. I also created a free download that's just on the front of my website called Maintain Balance and Prevent Overeating this holiday season, and it includes a 1-day free meal plan. So definitely grab your free download there. And then again, I'll just mention the Woodstock Fruit Festival. If you want to come and hang out with us in person for a whole week and definitely indulge in some durian, then go to Woodstock. The late night durian feast.
Yeah.
Then go to woodstockfruitfestival.com and use coupon code Happy and Raw, and you can get $200 off your ticket if you join us. All right. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. Super awesome to do this live Google Hangout. Thank you, Jenna. You're so awesome. I love you.
Love you guys. Thank you so much for joining, and we're so grateful for your presence, and have a blessed day.
All right. Aloha.